Welcome to Old New Borrowed Blue, a Blue Room podcast where we look at everyone's favourite things about Everton. So the premise is basically old is your favourite former player, new is your favourite current player, borrowed, favourite loan signing, blue, favourite Evertonian. Think about Everton, whatever you want, can be anything. I'm glad to say this week I am joined by Laura Gates, a well-seasoned toffee. So we will get straight into it. Can you get a seasoned toffee? That wouldn't make sense, would it?
Seasoned toffee. I don't know. What does
Like
that
salted
entail?
caramel, I suppose. This is
Oh, they should start handing those out. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But yeah,
yeah,
well,
maybe Steve
well
Brown
seasoned.
up the game. Forget the Everton mints, salted caramel toffees. Right, let's jump straight into it. So, who is your favourite former player?
Favorite former Everton player. I think people of my sort of age who've watched Everton are probably a really obvious one, and probably one that a lot of people would go for. But I have in fact gone for Leighton Baines. I just feel like he's a player you just can't go wrong with. You think back of like those two West Ham free kicks. We have not had a player since him that could do something like that. Not even close. But I think on like a personal level as well, like I've had the pleasure of meeting him quite a few
Yeah,
times, and he is just a very, very lovely, down to earth person. And I think quite a lot of people who follow me on Twitter will know as well that I'm massively into my photography. And a couple of years ago, I did actually meet him while I was doing some photography with Everton, and I got to shoot his portrait, which was really nice. Um, and
what, what was that then? Was he just knocking about doing photography? Was it like a planned day where people went to
no,
do?
I literally, because I know Tony who does the photography at Everton, he invited me to come and shoot a match day with him.
Oh, sound.
So that was in May 2017. I think I've actually got the book next to me. So May 2017 against Watford, which happened to be Ross Barkley's last game and last goal for us.
Was that the
Uh,
2-2 start of the season?
no, we won 1-0, didn't we? No, it was end of the season, May 2017.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Tony had invited me to do that, and sort of before the game and before people have arrived and stuff, you just kind of walk around the stadium and outside in the fan zone and just sort of taking like atmosphere photos and photos of the stadium and in the stands. And obviously like the players arrive through the sort of park end, from the corner
Yeah.
where the away end and the home end sort of meet. They arrive through there, and there were players arriving and stuff like that. And I was taking pictures of them, and it was like Tom Davis and a few others coming through, and Lukaku at the time. Yeah, Lukaku would have been there. Um, I don't know what really happened when Leighton Baines came past, but he just decided to come over and have a chat. Um, and yeah, he started talking about his photography as well with me, and he actually pulled out his thing. It was an iPad, showing me some of his photos and his like a camera that he's got. So I think for me, like, that's like a very special, like, personal memory that I now have, and it is a great story. I don't actually
Yeah.
think I've really shared that publicly before. Like a few friends and stuff know, but I don't think I've ever like fully spoken about it. But I always thought when he retired, he might do a little bit more. I mean, he may do some more photography and stuff, but he hasn't been posting on his account in a while for his photography. But he is very, very good at it.
Yeah,
Very,
that is amazing that he just sort of like ended up speaking to you. I mean, I was going to say how, because I've never known how to do this if you sort of see a football like in the wild kind of thing. What do you say to them? How do you approach them without sounding like all, I don't know, fanboy or fangirl? Or did he just like see you taking a picture and just sort of came over and started chatting?
yeah, pretty much. I think
Amazing.
pretty much like engaged first, but I've had instances where I've met like Tim Cahill and I couldn't speak, but I was younger then. Like I met Tim Cahill and I just, in the end, the only words that I could get out were "I love you." Yeah, and I think it depends on the player as well. And I think Baines is one of those people he's just so cool, isn't he? We all
Yeah,
know he's just like the coolest footballer you could like ever. Because
yeah.
if he's a footballer, he's going to be the front man of a band, isn't he? So
Well,
just think
so
he's
you said Evertonians of a certain age, like yourself would probably say Leighton Baines. So Paddy did one with Paddy. He said Leighton Baines too. And he said probably everyone of sort of that, sort of late 20s to mid 30s age range will probably say Leighton Baines as the
Well,
favourite former player.
I
One thing
won't,
spoke to, oh, go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, I won't lie. And being honest, I haven't actually listened to anyone's episode yet because I didn't want to try
Probably
and,
best not to. Yeah.
yeah, because I didn't want to like, try and be the same or try too hard to be different. I wanted to go with what I sort of felt. And I think, yeah, Paddy's slightly older than me. He won't mind me saying, I'm sure. But yeah, I think people in that sort of age bracket probably will. I don't think unfortunately, we haven't had players that have been like, yeah, I absolutely adore him. Okay, maybe Lukaku, but I think it's a different kind of feeling with Lukaku.
Yeah. I think you could probably relate to Leighton Baines more. Lukaku seemed more like a sort of superstar footballer who came in. Leighton Baines, born in Kirby,
Yeah,
played for Everton as a kid before moving to Wigan to sort of kickstart his career because I think he got told by Everton he was too small, which is wonderful. But he's 5'7", which, as I will attest to, it's a decent height.
he told me he told me I was tall, and I was like, yeah, but lad, you're small.
It's true. But one thing I was going to say, when I was talking to Paddy about this, that I think the thing that really surprised me about Leighton Baines is that he stayed in football and stayed at Everton. I think when he was retiring, there was talk of maybe LA Galaxy or a move like that, which I thought would have been Leighton Baines just pissing off to LA would have been amazing. But the fact that he stayed and it looks like he could be sort of thinking about management and things like that, that really surprised me because he seemed like he was just a sort of footballer because it was something he was good at, not something he loved particularly. But what were your thoughts on that?
I think it's one of those things that like I don't know where it came from or how I know it or whatever, but it was said a while ago, like years ago, that he was quite like a home person. He
Yeah,
loves in and
it
around
was. I
home.
think it was the 2010 World Cup when
Yeah,
he never got picked and Steve
yeah,
Warnock went instead, which is
yeah.
still to this day mind
Bizarre.
blowing. Yeah,
Absolutely bizarre because there's no contest there at all. But yeah, I think it did stem from that where people are like, yeah, he gets homesick or something. But at something like LA Galaxy, you would think Baines would fit in right there. You could see him on like Venice Beach or something, couldn't you? But
yeah,
I think from my point of view, he's just a scouser, isn't he? And
yeah,
he just wants to be home. I mean, if you, I always got the sense that he didn't love being a footy player, but I think he must do. Like, you must do some element because Christ, I couldn't have stayed at Everton that long if with how bad it's been through the years. But if you love Everton and you love football, then you're gonna stay. You're gonna stay, aren't you? If you're happy, then
yeah. And as you say, he stayed at Everton when he could have gone elsewhere a couple of
well,
times, and he was just a fantastic footballer, wasn't he? He was
yeah.
just. So you talked about those goals at West Ham. You go all the way through to his last Newcastle, that free kick, all the way through to his last goal against Leicester.
Yeah,
Typically, I think he missed a penalty in the shootout, didn't he?
I
Like
think he
one of
did.
two
Yeah,
penalties he missed. But I mean, just like the range of goals he could score, ice cool penalty taker.
yeah.
It's pretty good with his assists as well.
I think you think back to those sort of that Leicester game, which was that his actual last game,
It
or
feels like it.
it was his
It
last
was his last goal.
chance at like a cup, wasn't it, at
Yeah,
Everton?
yeah,
I think that is one of the most upsetting things for me with Leighton Baines is the fact that he was just so good as a footy player and he never won anything.
yeah.
It's such a disservice to him. And I think it's going to be similar, touch wood, with Shea Coleman.
Shall we move on to the next one then?
It's
And
going to it was a lovely little tie-in then,
that
wasn't
seems
it?
as good a time as anyway. So probably not a surprise to most people who know. Yeah, probably
Yeah.
was a late contender from someone who came in from Burnley quite recently. But your favourite current player is
Seamus Coleman, obviously. I think, people who followed me for a long time on Twitter will know that, I am a little Seamus Coleman fangirl. And I do get my mates, sort of winding me up and saying things like, it's only because you're fancying him. And it's absolutely not. It's similar to Leighton Baines. Completely different style of fullback, really. But he's just a top class player who has ultimately given his all to Everton. And again, it will be like a crying shame that he could potentially leave having never won anything. But I just think, for me as well, like he is another person that is just top class off the pitch. And again, that's come from like I've met him on quite a few occasions. But also when you look at what other people say about him, he is held in such high regard across the game for anyone that's played with him or managed him. For those of people who've listened to Julia's BBC series as well, like you can hear how he comes across in that, but also how other people talk about him. I think as well, like you look at Lampard, maybe he's not a good manager, but when Lampard was playing, he was a world-class midfielder, and like some of the things he said about Seamus Coleman, Carlo Ancelotti, like there are people who are well known, well renowned in the world of football, and they all hold him in such high regard as a person and as a football player. And I just think, with football, there's not many people like him around anymore. And, he's another one that decided to stay at Everton. He could have had opportunities elsewhere. And look at his roots as well, coming from Ireland and playing Gaelic football. And you can see that in his style of play. And, he just doesn't give up, and he does want to give everything for Everton Football Club, and he cares. So I think I think, we're getting to the end of his sort of playing career now, and I just can't even fathom thinking about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that like really upset me about going up the Carabao Cup the way we did, because it felt like we got a really good chance here of getting to a final, and it's got to be the last time. We got the FA Cup potentially, but that was a really good chance to get to a final again and maybe actually finally win something and see him lift the trophy, because I've absolutely no doubt he'd have gone and lifted it no matter who the captain was. He'd have gone and lifted the trophy, and that's like, throw it all on the FA Cup now. We were talking about this in post-match the other day, saying, do we just write off the FA Cup now, or do we go for it for Palace? I'm like, just go for it. Keeps the momentum going. And, it is for players like that. You want to see him, like for all the like the games he's given Everton. You want to see him get something, don't you? You don't want to see him go the same way as Baines, who just like unfortunately never lifted the trophy.
It's just devastating, isn't it? Like it just feels like, you kind of go back to that Bill Kenwright phrase of like, we've had good times, and it's like, yeah, there have been times when, you look recently as well where we've won a few games on the bounce. Okay, recently it's slipped a little bit, but like, yeah, that is good. That is good fun. We do enjoy winning games. But ultimately, like, if you're not winning any trophies, like, it's almost like, what is the point in it all?
Yeah.
But
from a footballer's angle, that is it. For us, it's different, isn't it? Because obviously we all want to see our team lift the trophy, but for us, it's like it's about seeing each other. It's about going to the pub beforehand, afterwards, seeing people at the game, going with your family. Yeah. For football, is really, I suppose for some, it's like it's playing for your boyhood club or whatever. But ultimately, you want to win stuff.
Yeah.
At any level.
That's what's interesting, isn't it, about Seamus as well? Like, Everton isn't his boyhood club. I think his boyhood club was United, wasn't it? But he just has come here, and it was how many years ago? 2009. He signed, didn't he? 1st of January 2009.
He did.
For 60 grand, as we all.
He played, but up to that point, he played 56 games for Sligo Rovers and scored 1 goal. So.
It doesn't shock me, really, but he's not known for his goal scoring abilities, but, he's a hard worker, and he's been a great player for Everton. But I think it's happened with quite a few players where they've come in to the club and they either get it or they don't. So, like, Neil Maupay, for example, didn't quite get it. James Coleman got it so much that he's decided to stay here forever. Have his kids over here. They're all little Scousers. Do you know what I mean? Like he's just fully embedded here now.
Yeah, and he does feel like someone who could one day be a manager. He feels like he's
doing his. Go on.
No, go on.
I was going to say he's doing his badges, isn't he? His coaching badges. I'd like to hope he'd, similarly to Baines, I'd like to hope he'd sort of stay on at Everton and coach with us as well. I just feel like Everton would be weird without Seamus Coleman, because again, it's like similar to Baines with people of fans of a certain age, like myself,
Well,
think of Seamus Coleman as Everton.
yeah. Well, when a player's been there that long, he does sort of become part of the furniture. Really,
Yeah,
it's like when Moyes left. For a lot of people, that was mad because that was kind of the only manager they'd ever known.
well, that was me because although
Yeah,
that been well, when I was born, there was obviously we had different. Let's not talk about him, but other managers, and then for the most part of like what my memory can recall,
yeah,
David Moyes, and then there was like no one else. Now, as soon as he left, it was like, the fuck happens now?
yeah.
It's
And
just odd.
yeah, and they've messed it up right the way along since then.
Since, yeah,
Quickly, before we move on to the next one, not known for his goal scoring prowess, he scored 22 goals in 354 games. None better nor more important, I reckon, than that one
and
against Leeds from an impossible angle, which
yep.
was, so we're
He
recording
was
this.
definitely shooting. By the way, it was not a cross.
There was no one to cross to.
Yeah, no one's
So,
crossed it. He's looked up and
yeah.
gone, yeah, bang. I'll have
And
that.
there was a certain Liverpool right back getting talked about recently about hitting a shot from an impossible angle that hit the woodwork against Newcastle. Alexander Arnold hit the post against Newcastle from the same angle, and they were all talking about who was it? Roberto Carlos, players like that could hit them from impossible angles. It's like literally the Everton fullback scored from that angle last season.
I had a
But
great view of that as well. I was in the park end. I was in your neck of the woods, and it was literally I was just above the sort of crossbar, and you could see like from that angle. Oh, it was beautiful. I
it
knew
was
before
just,
the back of the net it was going in. You
yeah,
just
it was like the ball just sort of got clipped down the line, and he ran into the box,
yeah.
and then suddenly
Melier
that
was
side of
so
the net
far off his
pulled him.
line.
What's that?
Was Melier so far off his line as well, wasn't
Yeah,
he? Leeds keeper.
he come right out, hadn't he? But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a hell of a goal. And if there's one thing we remember him for, and it's that it was crucial. It helped keep us up. So
Scored a good goal against Swansea, didn't he? Was that when he like
when he
was that
went nuts and hit
and
the
he
horn,
used the advertising board, yeah.
yeah.
He's funny.
And we can't like move on without mentioning what a little narc he is.
Oh, he's
He loves the
perfect.
aggro.
That's
Look,
yeah, right into that. You see it all the time. What was it? You think you're a hard man? Was he doing that to
who was
someone?
that too?
Oh, is it West Ham? No. Oh, I
There's
can't remember.
there's
It
the
was
one where
West.
he's crouched down at someone as well.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and then he's also had a run in with Diego Costa as well, hasn't he?
Oh, that was funny.
That was
Yeah,
really funny.
yeah.
Oh,
That was
yeah,
ridiculous. That was a ridiculous game all around that one.
I very nearly did say James Tarkowski for sort of a similar reason. Like, I think he's a big knock.
Yeah.
What's a fucking tackling, but he doesn't come close to Seamus Coleman.
No,
Not a
it's
chance.
it's his little squeaky voice that adds to it as well. So on that Leeds goal, I watched it back last night, and you hear Iwobi's got the
Oh,
ball on the
James.
halfway line, and you hear him squeal for the ball.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
it's so brilliant. Oh, I
Yeah,
love him. I love
what a
him.
fella. Right, we will move on to borrowed. Who you got a few here, so we'll just go through the favorite loan
Yeah,
player, a couple of shout outs, and then go on to your proper one.
I was gonna say like there was a couple for me here, wasn't there? Because Gareth Barry
Yeah,
again.
he was Dave's.
Yeah, he came on loan originally, didn't he? But
Yeah,
like he was one of them like don't fall in love with a loan player. Don't fall.
too
Sorry,
late.
have you seen the cheekbones on him?
Who cut glass with those things?
But not only that, he was just class, wasn't he? He was just unreal. And I was just so glad that we signed him on a permanent. And then I think another shout out was for Stephen Pienaar.
Yeah,
Well, I know we've done a lot of chat about Leighton Baines, but obviously that classic Baines Pienaar link up was just
it was outrageous, wasn't it?
unbelievable. Like that nothing has come close on that left side since, and I don't think it ever will do. But like you think back to that sort of era of Everton, and that's the main thing that stuck out for me is that what do people call it, Bainar?
Yeah,
Christ.
could have been penis, I suppose, but
I'd never thought of it in that way. Oh, but yeah. But I think the one I'm going to go for, and you're wearing his shirt, was Landon Donovan. He was a player I really wanted us to sign permanently. And I think a lot of people at the time, from being on Everton Twitter, thought the same. I think he signed, didn't he, on loan in January 2010.
Yeah.
And he actually went on, I think, to win Player of the Month in the same month. And I just loved him straight away. I think LA Galaxy, though, they weren't keen on, rightly, I think, on letting him sort of go and leave them.
Is it a weird thing in America where are you contracted to the national team as well? The US
Men's
MNT or whatever it's called.
MNT, yeah.
US men's national team. Yeah. Are they contracted to them or the club? I always
I
thought it
never
was
know how it works. It's
a
weird.
weird setup.
They do the whole designated players thing, and
Yeah.
he was a designated player, I think, at the time for LA Galaxy, and I think rightly so. He was one of their, if not their best player at the time.
Yeah.
Not
So
really works, but yeah, it was odd.
because he was at LA Galaxy from 2005 to 2014. Then he went on 3 loans. 2009 he went to Bayern, and then he came to Everton. 2010,
And then he back.
2012, and then went back. Yeah. So I mean, making the move from LA to L4 must have been like a little bit jarring, especially in January. But he's another one, isn't he? Who he straight away took to the club, and the club took to him. It was just a
Yeah.
perfect,
Well, I think
perfect match.
he accidentally broke Ashley Cole's ankle as well.
Even better.
Because I remember being when we used to sit in the family enclosure, he'd gone in for a tackle with Ashley Cole, both going for the ball. It wasn't a foul time. And I heard the crunch of his ankle because in the family enclosure, like right at the front, actually heard it, and I thought, this is brilliant. Couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke. But yeah, I remember that he was quite energetic, wasn't he? He was, and I think when he came back on loan the following year, I was at Villa away. That was in the January, I think. Villa away, 11-12 season, and he got the assist for the Victor Anichbe's equaliser quite late on in the game, and I just remember thinking, I just love him. I just remember
Yeah.
being.
He didn't quite have the same impact second time round, did he? But
No, he didn't. Not as good as the first time round. But I think it's weird, isn't it? Because I think the MLS season stops, doesn't it? They're not playing through December, January, are they? So I think that's probably why they were like.
yeah. So David Beckham did it a few times as well, didn't he? You know,
Yeah.
went to Milan, I think, and things like
I
that.
think they just want a bloody break, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd think so, yeah. But yeah, he is a player who you sort of felt it would have been nice if we could sign him, but as we said, it might have been a bit. The whole setup was quite weird.
Yeah, and I think also like for me, it's like from a marketing perspective, it's like we'd never really tapped into that US relationship a bit more.
No.
Still don't really. Like obviously we have Tim Howard as well, and he does a little bit on like American telly, doesn't he, as like a pundit? But I
Yeah.
just feel like we tried a bit more when we signed James Rodriguez, didn't we? And it was like, oh, we might actually be commercially getting ourselves together here, and then we've never really like.
Yeah, I think the annoying thing about the American stuff was that we had like quite a good continuity thing going there because we
Yeah,
had Brian McBride, Joe
right.
Max Moore going back to them, Tim Howard, Landon Donovan. There was a nice little procession of
Yeah,
American
yeah.
players there, and we never ever really tapped into it.
Can we class Jack Harrison now?
He's got the weird accent going, that fella, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's another one that I just wouldn't. He's a lone player, but I've definitely not fallen in love with him.
He's a strange one for me. He runs a lot, but he gives the ball away a lot.
So easily, yeah.
Quite wasteful with it.
Great that you run a lot, lad. Really appreciate the effort. Really like your ma as well, but
yeah. Good eyebrows though as well. There is that.
That's true.
Right. we'll move on to your final one then. So this is basically your favourite blue. So previous ones we've had, I think Paddy said Jodie Comer and Manchester Metro.
Oh, Andy
Burnham. Name completely escaped me now. I was thinking Joe Biden for some reason. Andy Burnham. and then Dave said John Parrott. Sorry for the spoilers there for anyone who's not listened to the other ones. But you're the first one so far to have gone with a family member. So
I thought like people would be a little bit sentimental with it, but Paddy Boyle had gone for Jodie Comer. She's quite nice.
Yeah, I think he did say he was thinking about like his dad and his granddad and that, but you thought I'll pick someone famous instead?
Well, the first name that came to mind was Les Roberts, but I didn't want to embarrass you.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I think I didn't have to think about it too hard. Like, famous people to me, like I don't really care about celebrity culture or anything like that. I wouldn't even pick like an Everton player who's an Evertonian, like eh. But I think for me, like because like you said before, like being an Evertonian, we kind of the game is different for us, and we go to see our mates, we go to the pub, we go with family, it's all about those like personal sort of rituals with the game, I suppose. So for me, I've gone with my granddad. And I think, for me, I don't have my granddad passed away sadly when I was about 15, 16. No, younger than that, I think 14, 15. And I think, it just kind of makes me laugh sometimes because when things are going terribly with Everton, which is obviously most of the time, I always say to my mum, like, why did you do this to me? Like, why? And she's like, well, it was your granddad's fault and he's not around anymore. So what are you gonna do? And I think for me, like, I do miss him a lot. And at the same time, like, I am very glad he's the reason I'm a Blue. Because it sort of makes me feel like I'm still sort of connected to him in a way. And he was genuinely for me like one of my heroes. And I think as well, given that my dad's a Red and mum being a Blue, that it could have easily so like gone the other way. Even if I think my mum probably would have killed my dad if he tried to force me down that path. But yeah, I think I'll be forever thankful that my gramps made me a Blue. He always used to say like I play football as well, and he always used to say to me like it'll be me playing for Everton one day. And obviously, sadly, that hasn't actually happened. Even though he used to come and watch me all the time. I think he took me to a couple of my trials with Everton as well. And yeah, I think, it hasn't happened, but my uncle, his son, granddad's son, is still convinced at the age of 27 I'll make it for Everton. So
You're not too old.
delusional. But yeah, I think the fact that I've had a few trials at Everton and my granddad was there, like when I played at Walton Hall Park and stuff, I think I'll take that.
Yeah.
I do miss like he used to come and watch my football every weekend, and he'd do the dubbing on my boots, like before and after games and stuff like that. It's just like those sort of little things that you sort of miss, and it's become like that's one of my favourite sort of memories of my granddad because I don't actually remember. I don't have any memories of me and my granddad at the game or at Goodison.
Okay.
Which is like quite sad, but like just the sort of personal stuff around my football and him being like, oh,
Well,
you'll
yeah.
have it one day, and
I think if anything there as well, that's not so much a bad thing because if you've got memories of like being at the game, you kind of sharing that with lots of people. But when
yeah,
he's like taking your boots and cleaning your boots, when he's like taking you to Walton Hall Park and watching you play there, that's about you two.
yeah,
And that's really nice that
and
you've got
yeah,
those sorts of memories. I didn't realise that. So I know your mum's a Toffee and like that's why you support Everton, but your granddad was very heavily involved in this decision as well.
yeah. I think so. That's what my mum says anyway. Like he, one of my other granddad, he was a Red, and I think that's from my dad's side. I think with my mum's side was just so always Everton's always been about Everton, so there was no other choice. My brother's the same. Like there's two of us, and my dad didn't win on either of us.
Lucky.
Always, yeah. So I'm glad. I'm thankful for that. But yeah, dad, granddad made us Blue. I
And
guess.
this is the thing that people don't get is that because like we could have had a relatively easy life had we gone the other way. It would have been all like it would have just been easy, wouldn't it?
No,
What have you got to moan about? Not
Yeah.
much, really. But
Yeah.
just couldn't contemplate it.
No,
It just doesn't compute at all.
I wouldn't swap any of it either, though.
No same.
Would not swap it. Yeah, okay, trophies are not nice, but the people I've found because of Everton Football Club mean more to me than anything, and obviously still having that connection with my family and stuff like that as well. That means more. This means more.
But ultimately, that's what it's about, isn't it?
It
It's
is.
like my dad passed it to me, I've passed it to the kids, and every time there's a shit result, we turn around and look at him and like, why? But
Yeah.
Really, we wouldn't have it any other way. That's a lovely way to finish that.
It
That's
is.
I see. I'm glad that you picked your granddad there because I was really hoping for some like Everton family chat because I think like
Yeah.
for all of us that's what it's about. But as you say, we've made a massive group of friends from it as well. Like the best people we know
Yeah.
are because of this.
I know.
Which
Relationships, things like that, everything. It's, I know so many people who've met their partners and stuff because of Everton, and yeah, I think it's just a massive part of it. And I think, obviously now, like, we're kind of based at the Denby Castle, and on a match day, you can't sort of move around that pub without one of your mates being there, and I think that's just such a nice thing to have. And yeah, I absolutely love it.
it is, it's lovely, and you don't get that in any other aspect of your life, do you? It's like
Um,
whatever. It's all yeah. So
we
that
say
is
this, sorry,
good.
we say this quite regularly, don't we? That the football actually gets in the way of a nice day with your mates.
It's probably about 10% of the day, isn't it? On
Yeah,
football. If you win, it takes on more significance because you want to keep that feeling going. But if you get beat, you kind of like you're annoyed. But you brush it off and get on with it and just enjoy
well,
each other.
that's it. You go to the pub, get your grievances out with your mates, chat it through, and then you go, right, let's draw a line under it and go on, carry on.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's lovely.
Got too much of the time, haven't we?
What we can do.
No, that is a lovely way to finish on. Cheers, Laura. Thanks for that. Just before we go, if anyone does want to get involved in this, slide into our DMs at the Blue Room EFC, and we'll be in touch. Thanks, Laura. Really enjoyed that, and we'll catch you on the next Old New Borrow Blue.